This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to your very own live morning safari. We're currently on and beyond Ngala, and we are driving in the dried riverbed of the Timavati. Actually a rather chilly morning. I'm still trying to warm up my hands on the heater. So we've decided to come this route just to check if we can find any sign or track of the Nyala female. So she's given birth quite recently, maybe about 2.5, 3 weeks ago, and we as of yet not found her den. So we just decided to check east from Tented Camp in the Timavati River to see if we can find any tracks of her, maybe where she's been going in and out. Same thing with the lions. They will find quite a nice spot on the edge of a river where the vegetation is very thick and try see if they can hide their cubs anywhere along the vegetation where it's very, very thick and better spot for them to hide. So like I said, welcome on your very own live safari in the African bush, where we are starting on and beyond Ngala. And very chilly morning. You're with me, Rowan, and then behind the camera we've got Craig. So yeah, welcome to a very cold and beyond Ngala with me, Rowan, Craig behind the camera, where we are specifically looking for tracks of the Nyala female, hopefully to find out where she's been going, where she's been spending a lot of time, because she'd be having her cubs will now be somewhere here. We do think they're probably about 3 weeks, 2.5, 3 weeks old already. The last time we saw her was about 3 weeks ago, and she was definitely lactating. But in these conditions, a leopard can stay very secretive, especially with her and her own cubs. So we've been struggling to find tracks of her, and we just need to find an area where you can see she's been spending a lot of time, so in and out of a specific area, because she'll go out hunting during the day and she'll come back to feed her cubs every now and then. So if we can just find one track and try follow that to that area, that would be great. So we decided to start here this morning. Because it's so cold, predators can actually stay active for a little bit longer. So we are currently heading in an easterly direction in the dried up Timavati riverbed. Knowing her, what she did last time with her previous litter is she denned where her mother was actually denning with her, the black dam female, where she left her and her brother when they were very young. So leopards often go to a spot where they felt comfortable and safe for their own cubs, which is why we're checking along this river. So every now and then I'll just be looking down onto the ground to see if we can find any fresher tracks. There are just a lot of baboon tracks around here. They often or also spend the night in the higher trees just on the bank of the Timavati, trying to stay away from any nocturnal predators such as hyenas, lions, leopards, anything that could be harmful to them. Looks like it's going to be a gorgeous day though, not a cloud in the sky. So even though it's cold now, give it about an hour and a half and it'll start heating up quite nicely. So it's nice to drive out in the riverbed and you just get the rays of sunlight hitting the one bank. Very pretty. I think we're the only vehicle driving in the east this morning, so we're going to spend a bit of time there. Everyone else went further west, see if they can find any sign of lions. Either the pride, or the part of Birmingham Pride with the white lions, or the 2 lionesses and their 5 youngsters. Just so many baboon tracks and elephant tracks, but so far no fresh leopard tracks. So I think let's have a quick look at the weather for today.
Good luck. Hopefully you'll find what you are looking for. Always a treat to be looking for a leopard that's just had cubs. Anyway, we are out and about in Djuma. It's a fresh kind of start to the day, but so far nothing really has presented itself. There's not really much happening actually. It's been fairly quiet so far this morning. We haven't heard too much in the way of any alarm calls or roars or anything like that, but we'll have a look around and see what we can find. My name's Tristan. On camera I've got Morgan this morning, and it is a very warm welcome to all of you to Djuma. Hopefully it will be another good day. Yesterday was a very good one for us, and I'm hoping today will be much the same. What we're going to do is we're just going to check the sort of central parts of the property, see if there's any sign of, well, anything really. I'm actually quite keen on anything today. I don't really mind what we get, as long as it's something good to look at, then I'm happy. Whether that be leopards or insects or elephants or birds. I'm in one of those moods today. Is a bumble and just enjoy the bush for the bush. It's pretty at the moment with this kind of autumn light that we've started to get. As well as, you know, these kind of pretty days that we're having at the moment. So I think that's why I'm just going to take it easy and enjoy what comes our way. It's not going to be a stressful drive, that's for sure. Just scanning carefully, just going very, very slowly at the moment. Just checking around to see if anything has been walking. So far, the only thing that we have really to follow up on is lions roaring up in Buffelshoek, which I'm sure is the Talamati Pride again. They seem to be quite vocal last night. I heard them quite a bit last night. But other than that, there's quite a few vehicles out already, and nobody's actually found any signs of sort of any tracks to work with yet. But I'm sure they'll come up as we go. We just need to do a bit of exploring and check. With regards to Kalamba and her kill must still be in the Mulawati, unless she didn't hoist it. If she didn't hoist it, then, well, I'm pretty sure that kill's no longer with us, and the hyenas would have stolen it. So we'll see if they did steal it, then I would imagine she'll just be with the cub today. I don't think she'll move too much. And then tomorrow or tonight we should start to pick up her tracks again. But I'm intrigued to see if this den was just a den out of convenience because the kill was close by, or if it's a den that she's going to use for a while. I think that's going to be very much dependent on what predators find her, or what predators are in the area. If the lions come through and spend a lot of time, then I think you're going to find she's going to be fairly kind of mobile with that cub and move it around. But if no one comes through here, maybe she'll stick around for a few weeks, which will be nice. Actually might head eastwards and see if we can't follow up on Tandi and Kuchava. That might be a good idea. Vicky, yes, very ordinary behavior to see the cub being moved. And she was a little cub. She was probably moved the most that I've seen out of cubs. And that was just because Tandi was trying to stop her from being eaten by Hukamuri. But yeah, it's very common. Remember that these little cubs, they defecate, they urinate. Mom has to go and hunt. She has to go and find food. So she can't just, leave the cub and kind of magically fly. So every time she walks, she's leaving a scent trail for various other predators to follow her. And so, after a while, things like hyenas start to get quite clever and start to understand, hang on a second, this leopard is here a lot. Let's sniff around, maybe there's a kill. And that can then endanger the cubs. So they move them fairly regularly for that reason. Also, leopard doesn't want to have to not patrol its territory, not feed, and so if food is slightly further away, then it's always a good idea just to move the cub a little bit closer, make sure that she's keeping babies within reach and that she's not having to cross mass distances to get back to the cub if she's trying to feed on a kill. Probably why she dragged that kill into the Mulawati. I think she also feels like that kill was very visible in the tree that it was in, and she's right. I mean, you could see that kill quite clearly. And so it's better for her to take it into the Mulawati where it's a lot more hidden. It'll be more difficult for hyenas, lions, other leopards to find it in there than it will be where she had it yesterday. All right, let's carry on. Let's see what we can find. In the meantime, let's send you across to Trish to say good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome aboard. It's me, Trishala. I've got Gert on camera with me, and we are in the western portions of Djuma, because we wanted to just see if maybe Shudulu would have left us any clues, any tracks around this area. But after we left her last night, going west into the block, she was already quite close to the western boundary, so she would have easily moved out. But also there was a massive herd of buffalo that came through, so I think she was actually zigzagging and trying to avoid them. But that would have made her move quite quickly away from the area and probably out of the property. But I've done a lot of the western portion, and so far no clues, but I still have to go west and south, and then we'll check out that area. But I also wanted to maybe just go past the hyena den and see if anything's happening there too, since we were lucky for a little bit last night. Good morning, Impala. There's some impala in the beautiful sunlight. I love them I love them always, but in the morning they're particularly pretty because their fur is kind of glowing from the sun. Magic. Got a nice youngster there too. This looks like a lamb that was recently dropped in the last breeding, or the last drop, shall we say, which would have been about November, December last year. Now when they're this age, it's difficult for the males who are starting to rut to tell whether this young calf is a male or a female, so it's a bit of a protection for them to stay with their mothers and for their horns not to come up yet. Otherwise they'd be harassed and chased out. You'll say it looks very dreamlike. It certainly does. It's quite sunny, obviously, but it's that soft sun, and it's also very cold, and there's lots of moisture in the air, so it creates a fabulous effect with the light. Lovely. All right, let's keep on moving since they've moved on. And see what else we can find. I'm so looking forward to finding some good tracks and being able to find us a leopard or some lions, anything like that. Would be lovely, but I do want to go to the den and check that out first. Shane, hi, good morning. You'd like to know how difficult is it to spot tracks while driving? It's more difficult than if you're walking, but it's not that bad because your eyes get quite used to the normal condition of the road and the normal look of the road. And when you see tracks, it's not just one track because the animal's moving, right? So you can see a pattern of them actually walking. So it doesn't matter if you even see the whole track and identify. You don't have to really stop and look and think, okay, this is a leopard, or this is a lion, or this is a hyena. Sometimes just from looking like this in front of me, I can tell what track it is because of the angle of the foot. So there's lots of things to look at. For example, a hyena doesn't really walk like that. It kind of walks with its paws outward. So there's an angle to its tracks. A leopard walks more front on. Oh, hello, mister. A leopard walks more front on, and a lion will usually be walking in the pride, or it's a very big track. So it's quite easy to tell while you're driving what's happening in front of you. Then you see we have no door on this side. That makes it very easy for us to track, because after I've noticed that there's something on the road, tracks on the road, I will look down and double check that it is a leopard. It's not just a small lion that's been walking around on its own, which is very unlikely. So you're using a whole lot of different information to figure out what's been walking where. It's also very easy to see tracks that are fresh because they're on top of everything else. And when they walk, they compress the sand underneath them. So it looks very, almost shiny, especially when the sun hits it. Like there, I noticed that there was something that was coming across the tire treads. And then I just ducked down to have a quick look. And see, it's just hyena. I like finding tracks in the morning because the road can be so busy from all the activity that happened last night. That's very easy to tell if a track is nice and fresh because it's like a fresh new print right on top of everything else. And the same goes for in the late evening because there's been so much driving around and so much movement that when there's fresh tracks, it's so easy to see them. Anyway, I'm going to keep on going, and speaking of the tracks, that's what I'm looking for. But first I'm going to pop into the den, which is not too far away.
So in 1998, we had this idea to go and put a live web camera on a waterhole somewhere in the Sabi Sands next to the Kruger National Park. And I approached just about every single landowner, and everybody thought I was completely crazy until I met Yuri and Pippa Moorman.
We thought it was definitely a fun idea and a worthwhile thing to experiment.
And it immediately became a runaway success. And it gave people all around the world the opportunity to watch a little piece of Africa day and night. Back in 1998, it was the very early stages of the internet. And all we were able to do was to get a 30-second refreshing JPEG out of that camera. But over time, what we began to do is focus more and more on trying to develop this concept of giving people the opportunity to go on safari.
Even though we live just 500 meters up this hill, we still put the camera on to see what's happening.
Absolutely, we watch it ourselves.
I got into wildlife filmmaking because of a passion for nature and a notion that I could make a difference. Helping others fall in love with nature brings meaning to what I do. It's also a lot of fun. A couple of times per week, we receive some very heartfelt messages from viewers telling us about how Wild Earth has made a difference in their life, whether it's helped them through a difficult period or simply helped them to reconnect with nature. I think that's why we do what we do.
We have a baby pangolin, a baby pangolin. This is off the charts. This animal is about from your fingertips to your elbow. That's the total length of this animal. This is unreal. This is unreal. This is unreal. This is like now my 4th Christmas in a week. We should do this more often.
Tune into Wild Earth every single day. It's in your nature.
So we couldn't find any fresh tracks of the Nyala female at all in the riverbed, so we decided to come onto the southern bank of the riverbed, where now we are heading back west. One of the trackers, Richard, he's on foot. He's actually tracking a different leopard. Sounds like, I would guess, in that area, probably New Zulu female. Although we've been having a youngish female hanging around in her territory as well. I actually saw them fighting not too long ago. Absolutely amazing sighting. Just the sound these leopards make when they're fighting is exquisite. And it wasn't too rough. Both of them came out of it with a bit of blood, but pretty much unscathed. And I remember it was funny. New Zulu tackled the other leopard right into a puddle, like a mud wallow. And this other leopard came up, but completely drenched in mud. Literally looked like a black leopard. But yeah, scary, scary, scary thing. Anyway, he's walking, and he said he heard, sounds like lions fighting on a carcass, not too far from where we are now. So we are actually going to go into that area, maybe just switch off the vehicle and listen, see if we can hear anything. If not, then don't know, just take it as it comes. It's a nice thing about the morning safaris always is that you never know what you're going to find out here. I mean, we could turn out a tented camp right away and get a bunch of lions on a wildebeest. That's happened before. I've actually had lions kill a wildebeest right in camp before. But I'm moving a little bit faster now, and it's significantly colder. My ears are feeling it. They feel red. Debbie, has there ever been an animal that I couldn't track? Debbie, I'll be very honest. I wouldn't consider myself an incredible tracker. Richard, on the other hand, we usually work together in a pair. I don't think there's an animal that he could not track. He blows my mind every single time. For me, there's probably quite a few animals that I can't track. Nowadays, with the grass this thick, it's been very difficult to find leopard on Ngala. We do okay at this stage, but yeah, we're still waiting for the grass to die out a little bit more. See, what will start happening then, if the grass isn't as thick, the bushes aren't as thick, then leopards will start hoisting their kills again. So I know yesterday in Juma, Tristan had the leopard with the carcass in the tree. I'll be honest, I've not seen a carcass in a tree with a leopard for a good 8 months now. And it's just because the bush is so thick, they get away with stashing it underneath a guarri or any other thick vegetation. And it's rutting season, so all the male impalas, they're not really concentrating on anything but the rut. So good time for leopards to be hunting. So fingers crossed, we'll be able to show you a carcass in a tree soon. So Fred has just found 2 lionesses. My guess would be it's the 2 sub-adults that we saw yesterday in the riverbed, quite far up north. Like I said, we just have pockets of lions, or the Birmingham pride really, scattered everywhere. So when Richard was walking, he said it sounded like south of Old Orpin. This road is Old Orpin, and close to Devonshire, which is our second next junction, where we're just going to turn off and listen. see if we can hear any lions growling. If they just made the kill now and the carcass is fresh, they'll often fight with each other to get the best part or the best piece, or actually just any bite of the carcass depending on what they killed. But we should be able to hear it quite clearly. Be interesting to see if it is the Birmingham Pride with the white lions, that section of the Pride, if the young male's there. Lisa, I think you asked what happens to all the bones out here. Majority of it gets eaten by hyenas. It's the bigger bones, like the larger carcasses, elephants and giraffe, that still, you know, are scattered around the area. Sorry, just need to wipe the lens. Quite a few spider webs still around. Okay, so just here, we'll stop and listen to see if we can hear any growling. See, Richard is, as a crow flies, about 2 kilometers that way, so for him to be able to hear it, quite nice. We have double-banded sandgrass flying right next to us. We'll just slow down a little bit. There we go. Craig, you could have caught one there. Sorry for my sniffing. It is rather chilly, especially once we start speeding up. Okay, we'll actually stop here. Yeah, impalas ratting, as is the norm this time of year. Actually, wouldn't be surprised if the sound came from further west. Yes, these impalas don't stop. They rat all through the night. So Nick is saying he just found the 2 lionesses with the 5 youngsters and both the Ross males still on the wildebeest carcass. Took the Ross males quite some time to find it. Okay, so I can't hear anything from this spot. What we'll do is we'll actually just leapfrog. Stop every 200 meters or so. It is, I'll agree. Everyone's saying how quiet the bush is. And if it's not for the impalas ratting, you'll only hear bird sounds. And sadly, what we want to hear are lions fighting. It's actually very, very quiet. Very peaceful out here, I have to say. It's quite an adjustment when you come from the city and it's your first night here. So there's no hooters, no bikes revving, no cars revving, no banging, no shouting. So it's quite peaceful and nice to fall asleep out here in the bush. Unless you have Barney sleeping next to you in a room. Sounds like a leopard calling all night long. Stop here again. Right, so we'll do this for the next couple of minutes. Just leapfrog every now and then, see if we can hear these lions. While we do that, I think JP just wants to say good morning to all of you.
Good morning and welcome to Wild Earth. We are live at Eco Training Pridelands and about to start our bushwalk. We started in this open plains area as we heard a large number of alarm calls, both from vervet monkeys, zebra, as well as impala. So we wanted to come and follow up and see what we could find over here. However, it doesn't seem if there's anything about at the moment. So our plans for this morning will be from here to continue towards Leopard Dam and walk for drainage lines between here and there. My name is JP LaRue, and behind the camera we've got Glenn. Well, meanwhile, we also just would like to point out the beautiful Drakensberg Mountains. It's going to be an absolutely lovely day today. And just to give you a little bit of an impression of our landscape we are working in. Those mountains is always calling, and it's one of the things that I love doing is to go right to the top of that hill of a mountain, which is approximately 1,900 meters above sea level. It's quite a unique little vegetation structure up there, which is very similar to fynbos, which we get in the Western Cape. And then just a little bit further towards the back of that little outcrop of a mountain is also the largest green canyon in the world, known as the Beta River Canyon, which is one of my favorite running spots and one of the most beautiful sections of nature to go and hike. We're going to start our walk, and in the meanwhile we're going to hand you over to Trish, who is bumbling around.
Good luck, JP. I hope that you have a fantastic walk. Yeah, our tracking mission hasn't been very successful. I haven't seen any leopard tracks except for the ones from last night that were already on via teleaccess, but nothing new and nothing to follow up on just yet. But I'm almost at the hyena den. So I usually use that road, Taxon's Road as it's been named. I use that road to go through to Treehouse Dam, so it's always convenient to just pop in and check the den out, just in case there's some movement. But I think today we're going to do it the opposite way. We're going to go to Treehouse Dam and then come in to the den that way. Thank goodness we're seeing it from afar. Otherwise it's gonna run. Gert and I have been very, very lucky with slender mongoose sightings. Hello, you. Oh, look at that stretch. Now, the mongoose we get you, only the white-tailed mongoose is one that you'd find at night. And all the other mongoose need to warm up. You're looking a little nervous, my slender friend. Perhaps we'd see it hunt. There's something very robotic about its head movements. This is unbelievable. We've been having really good slender mongoose sightings, ones where they're not running away. This one looks like it might still be still be sleeping. There we go. The sun is just so good. Little creatures are so good at positioning themselves where they're going to get the best amount of sunlight in the mornings. Sorry, I've just got an insect on my face. There we go. Now the other side. One side's got warmed up facing east. Now the other side is getting warmed up facing east. Go away. There's a fly. How we're used to seeing... Oh. That is too cool.
Please come in for me.
We're so used to seeing dwarf mongoose, and we see them all together in a group, but they're social. These guys are solitary, so you usually see them on their own. Standing by, Lee.
Just find out if you're the only one on the NPC car, or is there another vehicle there?
I'm just at Treehouse Dam. I haven't gone in yet.
Okay, do you mind if I make my way in?
Yes, go ahead, and if you can, just let me know if it's active still. The hyena den seems to be busy today. It was active earlier this morning, so vehicles are going in and checking it out all the time. Now, slender mongoose, just like... Oh, look at that, just like other mongoose, also... They also are carnivores. That's because they're from the order Carnivora. So they're very slick hunters. And in order to be good hunters, you've got to have all your machinery in good condition. Clean it up, warm it up, all of that. Kimberly, you'd like to know what types of species of mongoose we get here? It's actually just a dwarf mongoose and a slender mongoose. Hang on, that's a great alarm call. These impala have just picked up their heads as well, but they're still chewing away. Yes, and then we also get a white-tailed mongoose, but there's also the possibility of banded mongoose. I've seen banded mongoose here before. And those are the ones we get here. Head down. I'm just going to pop back again onto Philemon's cut line. Just see if something is on the road. I just want to sit and listen for a little while. We get the best clues from just taking it easy and slowing it down and listening. The most immediate clues. It's also good to have an idea of where the antelope are. So if you do hear something, you know where it's coming from. I could see an impala there. There were francolin that were calling in this bush, and then there were also more impala to the east of me. Pull my binoculars out here. I'm just going to take it easy and watch here for a little bit, and I'm going to send you over to JP, who has some creepy crawlies. You know I like those.
Good morning and welcome back to Bushwalk. We just found a garden orb-web spider that seems to be suspended and maybe died from a cold last night. Quite often what we do find is that spiders do not make it through the winter and that they will hatch from the eggs again and they'll start the whole life cycle again. Although there is some spiders that are quite long-lived and can live for a year or two. Now, the garden orb-web spider is quite often confused with a golden orb-web. But what you'll notice is that it's got an irregular or spiky appearance to the abdomen, compared to the golden orb web, which has got a very elongated abdomen. We'll also notice that it's got yellow and black bands, which is generally considered as an aposematic warning for birds that the spider is unpalatable. And I've never really seen any birds eating these spiders before. Then what we also quite often find with garden orb web spiders is this little zigzag line that we have over here, which is known as a stabilimentum. And it's believed to provide support to the web, but also act as a decoy for birds to prevent them from flying through the webs and damaging the web, which would obviously cost the spider a lot of energy in reproducing it.
Come around to the front.
Mm-hmm. Good morning, Janet, and welcome to the show. I've never really looked at how long does it take for a golden or a garden orb web spider to build a web, but it can probably be in less than 24 hours. And then if I also have to look at bark spiders, which we find quite often, it's literally within a few hours, and then there's a web that is being created over a road. And sometimes that web can be covering an area of almost 2 meters in size to the center of that road. And quite often what you have is at night time when you drive through them and you don't see them in the spotlight of your vehicle, you get your guess full of the bark spider web and a spider on top of them, which creates quite a lot of paranoia on your drive. We always joke that they have no medical importance, however they can induce heart attack in conditions like that. Good morning, Stacey, and welcome to the show. With regards to your question, does all spiders re-eat and rebuild? It's definitely the case with the bark spiders that they do. I'm not sure how much of a percentage it is, but I think there's a comment that I read before, up to 90% of it actually gets reused again. But with garden orb and golden orb web spiders, I'm not 100% sure. And then there's also a number of spiders that don't actually make webs, especially the more primitive ground-dwelling spiders, but they still use silk for the production of a number of other structures, such as with the entrance of a tunnel when it comes to the baboon spiders, and sometimes even a silk-like canopy that they use to close up a hole.
On the 27th of April, Wild Earth will be turning 14 years old, and we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for all of you. And to celebrate, we will be finishing the beautiful book that we started last year that looks at the history so far. But we do need you to be part of it. Please submit your most memorable sighting, or what Wild Earth means to you, or even just your name and a comment to be included inside the book. Head over to the website to add your name and reserve your copy. And a big thank you to all of you who have contributed to the book so far.
I was quite surprised and excited to learn that I had won the Wild Earth prize for March. My wife and I started watching Wild Earth during the lockdown, just to allow us to get out of the day-to-day routine and enjoy some of the bush sightings. Our favorites, of course, are watching the birds when they show them sometimes, and especially the leopards. That's always nice to see on the show. She will definitely be going with me, and I'm sure we're going to enjoy all aspects of the prize, as we don't get out into the bush often enough. Thank you very much, Wild Earth.
Hi, my name is Tristan Dix, and I am a guide here at Djuma Private Game Reserve for Wild Earth. We love connecting you to the African bush, and we always look forward to all of your questions. If you want to ask a question on Wild Earth, you'll need to register on the website. Once registered, go to our live safari page and submit a question below the live feed. Catch up with me on Wild Earth.
Guys, have a look at what we've got. This is better than my birthday. Look at that. This is the first time that I ever see cubs this small. This is so special. This has officially just become my best sighting of all times.
Tune into Wild Earth every single day. It's in your nature.
Well, we're on Chitwa at the moment again. Just taking it easy and having a very, very, very slow bumble. We've kind of stopped and listened for a while. It's always, I find, the best technique on Chitwa particularly. I don't know why it works so well on this property, but often, just sitting in one spot and listening for a while gives away something. The amount of times I've sat at the dam and heard alarm calls, and it's even like yesterday with Thandi. I was sitting there and then, we heard alarm calls around the airstrip, and we let one of the other vehicles know, and they eventually found Kachava kind of moving towards us. So it's just one of those places where you've got to kind of often be off rather than just driving around and rushing. I don't know what causes it, but it's what it is. As you can see, there's a few impalas busy chasing each other around on this open clearing. It's to be expected. It's that time of the year where boys will be naughty and be chasing the girls all over the place. But they've now disappeared behind a mountain. It's looking very wintry, isn't it? It's crazy how different it looks. The grass is dying back very, very quickly now. It's starting to get that sort of tan brown kind of tone to it, which is not what it was looking like even 2-3 weeks ago. All right, we're going to carry on. Let's head off down towards Chitwa Dam, see what's happening there. In the meantime, let's send you to Trish at another waterhole.
Well, I am at a dam. I'm at Treehouse Dam. The hyena den is not active, but we have a lovely kudu that's enjoying itself. It came down for a brief drink. Kudu are not exactly water dependent, and that's because they get a lot of their moisture requirement from the vegetation that they eat. But you will see them drinking regularly. It's just not a very prolonged scene. Now, this one's got its head in a guarri bush, eating away. It was a pair, and there was one impala with an identity crisis that was with them too. The water is so beautiful and still. It made for a beautiful image when they were here. There we go. Come down and have a drink again. Isn't that just beautiful? Martha agrees with me. She also says, what a beautiful scene. Lovely. Well, I also see some mongoose that are just to the left of that guarri bush that this kudu was eating. Yep. Hello, dwarf mongoose. Won't you come down and have a drink too? It's a pile of mongoose, everyone trying to get warmed up on that eastern side of the mound. No social distancing there. Look at that grooming furiously. Sometimes these termite mounds with mongoose in it, they feel like clown cars. Things just keep coming out. Mongoose just keep flooding out. And you think, how many are even in there? Very many. There's a lot happening at the dam today. I can hear a woodpecker as well behind us. Can you hear it? Oh, it's not terribly loud. Hopefully it'll come to one of the trees close by and we can see it. What was that? Hi, Sarah. You'd like to know, what do mongoose eat? Mongoose are carnivores, so they'll eat anything that they can get their hands on that is meat. So most of the time, that is things like scorpions, so invertebrates, things like scorpions, millipedes, other small invertebrates that they may find, as well as reptiles like lizards and snakes. They'll eat those. They'll pretty much eat anything they can get their hands on as long as it's meaty, including eggs. I once had a mongoose, or it was in my room at camp, and I heard this knocking against the wall. And it sounded like such a familiar sound, but I couldn't quite, something was off about it. And when I went and had a look, it was a mongoose that had gotten hold of a golf ball. Because I think James used to practice his golf swing, and the ball ended up behind my room, and this mongoose had gotten hold of this golf ball. And it started hitting it against my room wall, thinking it's an egg. That's why the sound was so familiar, because a golf ball has a really specific kind of sound when you hit it against something, or when you hit it at all. And what it does is it stands with its back to the wall and the golf ball between its legs, and then it throws it between its legs towards its back, or towards the back of it against the wall, and tries to break it. Because that's how it would break an egg. It would find something solid, turn its back to it, put it between, and then put the egg between its legs and throw it against that wall to try and break it up and eat it. They also have a fierce reputation for taking on snakes, even those that are venomous. Highly venomous too, even black mambas. It's cool to watch them from afar like this, because so often we watch them when they already know that they're being watched. It's nice to watch them like this too. Let me send you over to Tristan for now. I'm going to keep on moving, see what we can find in the south.
Well, there must have been the most disappointed mongoose in the history of mongoose. It must have thought it's found itself a prime egg and gotten nothing out of it and thought this is the worst day ever. Anyway, we are watching squirrels at the moment that are just sunning themselves. I think these guys have got the right idea this morning. It was a fresh start to the morning, but now it's turned into a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful day. And so what they're doing is just sitting on a branch, getting nice and warm after probably being huddled up during the course of the night and being fairly cold. It's nice just to sit on this tree and absorb the warm sunshine that is coming down right now. There's no wind to speak of, so it's perfect just to have a good relax in the sun. Squirrels make me laugh when they're doing this. There's actually lots of them on here. There's 4 different squirrels in total on this tree. There's one there, And there's the one right at the top that looks as though it's living its best life with its legs all kind of stretched out and making itself as comfortable as one could imagine. You can see it's got its front legs kind of splayed as well as its back legs. I feel like that would be me if I was on a tree. I'd just be all over the place. First thing in the morning. It's always a nice thing just to kind of lie back and enjoy the sunshine when it's cold in the winter. It's one of my favorite things to do on a winter safari, is just to find a little sunny spot and you just sit in the sun and almost be like a squirrel or a meerkat or a mongoose and absorb every little bit of the sunshine that you can. There's another little mongoose that's come out. It's like a little baby one, just to the bottom left of this one, in the fork of the tree. It's cute. See the size difference. Oh, that other one's yawning. Cute, man. And often with these guys, we don't get to see them all that regularly sitting still. They're normally quite busy little creatures. The only time you really get them like this is on coolish mornings when they do sun themselves. And I always find it's a good time just to take a moment to actually enjoy them. We use them so much, and I know their alarm call is not exactly reliable. Their alarm call for all kinds of things, including themselves at times. But they do help us, and we do benefit from them. So I think sometimes it's nice just to appreciate them and kind of chill with them and enjoy their morning antics. They look very content, don't they? Look as though they're having the best time. I apologize about the kind of chainsaw in the background. Well, it's actually not a chainsaw, it's a weed whacker, or some would call it. We're at Chitwa, and obviously when the guests are in camp, they can't make noise like this. So when the guests are out on their game drive, it's when they cut the grass and just get the camp into good condition. So that is the noise that you're hearing in the background. My apologies for the loudness of it. It is what it is, I'm afraid. Maintenance to lodges and things like that needs to be done, and the best time to do it is early in the morning before guests get back from drive. Jerome, this particular squirrel, yes, hence why it's called a tree squirrel. They spend their life in a tree. It's much safer in there. You will find them on the ground quite regularly. They kind of go from the tree down onto the ground and run around. But trees is where they'll nest and where they'll roost for the night. Obviously, they still need to find food, and so that means that they do come down onto the ground and go and scratch around and try and find any sort of tasty morsels that they can. But yeah, the name itself kind of gives away its lifestyle, that it does enjoy trees. They probably have a little hole in this tree somewhere that goes in, and then they nest in there for the night, and they'll all bundle up together, the four of them. But their bushy tails, in terms of significance, well, it's a big communicator for them. Their tail, if you ever see them when they're upset and they're alarm calling, that tail is making a huge twitching motion, which is basically telling everybody, not only with sound but with movement, that there's a problem, that they've seen something. It also tells other squirrels that they are not happy that they're in their territory, and so they can communicate with each other using that big bushy tail. If it was a very small, thin little thing, it wouldn't attract any attention whatsoever. And they wouldn't be able to kind of use it for what they do. Some squirrels actually, and in Tswalu, the squirrels there will use the tail as a little umbrella. So they often in the hot sun, they kind of curl this tail over their heads, and it acts as a little shade for them. So big bushy tails have the advantage. I've never seen these tree squirrels use the tail for that. It's more that their tail is a sort of communicative part of their body. It shows other squirrels what they're thinking and what they're doing, and much like a leopard has a twitchy tail and that white tip. It's the same with squirrels. Squirrels are are animals that are using the tail a lot of the time to tell other squirrels what they're up to. Also a balance thing. Remember that they are boreal creatures that are moving up and down, and that means that their balance is affected when the tail is very, very short. So a longer tail helps. I keep seeing feathers drop from this tree, and I don't know if maybe somewhere in here there is an owl or something that is dropping feathers and preening itself, or if maybe the squirrels have a nest higher up and they've been using feathers to line it. Just trying to check. I've seen 3 different feathers drift from the top of this tree down past the squirrels. Nope, no sign of any bird that I can see. I'll have a little scratch around with binos. In the meantime, though, let's send you across to Tswalu with friends of the squirrels.
Good morning, everybody from Tswalu. I feel also like a meerkat. I know Tristan was talking about standing in the sun like a meerkat. I am, just like them, appreciating the sun. My name's Deirdre, and on camera with me there in the back is Niels. And we are this morning with the rock stars and the little rockets. I definitely understand why they stand in the sun in the winter mornings, because it's got, whoopsie, don't fall over. It's quite nippy this morning. Little bit of a bite that there is out there, and as soon as you start moving, that little wind is pretty chilly. So they're starting to spend a little bit more, longer times at the den in the morning, just warming up before moving out foraging. And they're also starting to get a nice, like, fluffy winter coat as well. So there's still a few missing. A few haven't come up yet. A few of the youngsters. Hopefully everybody's saying, "Yay, meerkats!" I believe everyone's happy to see them. So there haven't been any major changes with this group. They've been quite successful raising their 5 little youngsters from a while ago. There was perfect timing because there was an abundance of food. And there still is quite a lot of food around at the moment. So they can afford to go out foraging a little bit later and come back. But everybody still on alert. Oh, and some just can't really keep their eyes open at this stage. Oops, don't fall over. So they've been at this burrow system now for more than a month, so they should be thinking about moving somewhere else. Jason's asking the question, how far will they forage from their burrows? So they probably have about a 2 square kilometre area that's kind of their home range or territory that they'll move within. But very often when they're at one burrow system, they'll forage a couple of 100 meters away and then just sort of forage in a circle that they're all relatively close to home. They tend to forage shorter distances when they've got small pups in the den, because then they keep going back and replacing the babysitters that also need to go and get food. And then when the pups are more capable, they'll take them further and further away. So now these little ones that are already a couple of months, they are capable of moving a lot further away from the burrow system. This particular group only has 2 burrow systems that we know of in their area, and they tend to move between the 2. But there's been an abundance of food, so they've been here for more than a month. The male's just doing some serious housekeeping. Never mind about the fact that your mate is standing on the... He doesn't even bother to get out the way. Shame. He's taking guard duty quite seriously. So, housekeeping and maintenance are a very essential part of what they do every day. So, Lindsay has asked the question, will they share the burrow with any other animals? So the burrow system in its entirety, yes, but individual holes where they potentially sleep in, no. So there could be, this particular one, we don't know of anything else at the moment, but we have got other burrow systems where they've shared them with Cape Fox or they share them with squirrel, but not all in the same hole. So some of the holes are interconnected and then others are sort of compartmentalized into different holes, and then they'll share that system. So the ground squirrels will live on sort of one half of the burrow system and the meerkats on the other, and they're quite happy to do that, but not necessarily in the same hole at the same time. And sometimes if they move on and it's unoccupied, a bat-eared fox can come along and make that their den site, and then the meerkats are not welcome there for that time frame that the bat-eared fox is there. So then they've got to move somewhere else. Lots of hole maintenance going on. So there are a lot of species that rely on these burrow systems. Most of the time it's the ground squirrel that actually makes the system, and the meerkats just do modifications as they're doing now, and sometimes the tunnels can interconnect. And then other animals will also move into these areas. Little bat-eared foxes. We've got, if the little Cape foxes need a den site, they might move into some of these areas. Mongoose species, yellow mongoose, and the ground squirrels. So lots of animals rely on these burrows. I can hear jackals howling in the distance, and so can they, so they've turned their heads to that direction. Nina is asking the question, do meerkats go potty in the burrow? Well, if they do, that's one of the reasons why they do their housekeeping, but tend to probably do it outside of the burrow so that there's no extra area for breeding of any bacteria or diseases. So most likely outside of the burrow before going in, but if anybody does, particularly youngsters, if there's babies in the burrow, then that gets cleaned out by the adults. But you don't see a lot of droppings. It's not the same as like a dwarf mongoose, where you often see droppings just outside and sort of decorative, almost all over the base of the termite mound, and then that smell will denote that they own that particular area. With the meerkats, you don't really see it at all. So I would feel that they actually defecate more when they're out foraging and keep their house clean. Oh.
So we've got up with some of the Pride members, and it's actually very cute. We've got the one younger youngster now playing with the older youngster, trying to tackle it. And then, shame, there's another baby trying to climb over its mom to have a better look at us. But they're still quite active, which is lovely. Look at those eyes, still very uncertain about what we are, but it's got the safety of its mom there. So, ooh, that's a little bit hard there. also going to the safety of its mother. Rather go play with its own sibling. It's its own size. So yeah, what we have is both the rice males. They look like they've finished the entire wildebeest. We've got the mother with the 3 youngsters, or babies, or cubs. The mother with the 2 cubs. Then we've got the young lioness with her 2 older youngsters. And we've got the very old lioness, all here, where the wildebeest carcass used to be. It looked like the very old lioness, still where the wildebeest carcass is. So on the other side of all the vultures there. I think she's busy feeding just on the scraps, so we might head over there a little bit later. But for now, I mean, all the cubs, well, these 2 young cubs are playing. We're about to wake up the dad. Whoopsie. Got a bit too close there. So that's the young male. And the young female's about to join him. There's the little female. And already a lot more relaxed. Oh, she's going to wake up the dad now. You just hear him growling. Right over him. I think she's even stunned by how big his belly is. Thinking, Dad, you ate all the food by yourself. It'd be wonderful if she just bites his tail. Go bite it. Bernie Lulu, great comment. They are just so special, so nice to see, and all of them different ages. Shame, it looks like she's more focused on the old lioness now. See what she's doing. I just really wanted her to bite the Rossmale's tail. It's quite nice where they're lying down now is where we flatten the grass to make a track to go into the to where the carcass is. So they're out in the open, not hidden by grass at all. Oh, it's going to roll over. She honestly just woke everyone up. Oh, big sigh. Definitely ate too much. Even woke up the other Rossmale. You can see him now in another direction. So his belly isn't as big, so I do think the blonder Rossmale got here first. So what's happening now is the one baby's starting to drink. So now everyone wants to drink. Micanova, Birmingham Pride and Breakaway Pride. So they are basically sisters and cousins, so they will get along. We've had them join. Sorry, this is just too good to see. Got all the babies rushing into me for a drink. Can you hear that deep growl? So here comes the other lioness, the younger lioness, and her 2 babies are somewhere behind her. But yeah, to get back to the questions, they would get along. We've seen them join up before, a long time ago, but there were 33 lions in total. Oh, woke up the Rossmale. See, he doesn't look as big as his brother in the belly does. It's not as full. But that's wonderful, hey? The sunlight in his face there. So now that's a territorial thing because the lioness came to him, greeted him, and he smelt whether she's an estrus or not, which of course she's not. And her youngsters are only about a year old now. Now he's actually telling his brother that when she's ready, I'm going to mate with her. And then back to sleep. But shame, it's like the young lionesses, cubs or youngsters, are the least favorite of this entire family. they're always just out in the outskirts. See the one baby now trying to get in there for a drink. The other one's coming straight back to his mom. Oh, a bit of growling going on. The mom doesn't want this one to drink. Sorry, Craig, I'm directing you all over the show. It's literally trying to force its way between our hind legs to get to a teat, and of course not getting very far. At a stage, probably just bite the leg. The other youngsters coming to join in. Now you're going to hear that moaning sound again. I just got knocked over by the young lioness. Our mom's not ready to let them feed. See how she's lying down on her stomach now. Oh, wrong mother. Cute little teeth. I think she's just going to start playing with them now. Actually, it's always nice to see how the younger lionesses play with the babies. Oh, look at the little paw on the nose. So cute. So we're going to spend quite a bit of time here. Still a bit of activity going on. We ain't going nowhere.
The Mara Triangle is a jewel in the Kenyan conservation crown, and thanks to the dedication of the Mara Conservancy, it thrives as one of Earth's greatest national treasures.
We have been experiencing a reduction in the whales nests that we collect on a monthly basis, and this is basically attributed to our intense patrols.
Over the years, this courageous team of anti-poachers has reduced poaching to almost zero.
Mimi naitwa Stephen Olereso. Nimefanya kazi miaka 16 sasa. Kuanzia miaka 2002. Hao wanadamu ni wenye utua sana sana inaogofya ni wale wenye wanaenda kama ndovu. Wanatumia kama bunduki. Sasa hiyo ndio huwa inakuanga hatari sana sana kwa sisi.
As a result of the global pandemic and the massive reduction in tourist revenue, the Mara Triangle is facing a financial crisis. They need your help if they are to continue their ability to protect this magical land.
I'm Nikki here at Ambion Ngala in South Africa. I love getting questions from viewers about all the small things within the environment and how it all is integrated with one another. If you want to ask me any questions, please simply register with the Wild Earth website, head across to the Live Safari page, and then post your questions there. I'm looking forward to chatting to you on my next Wild Earth drive.
Look at this, the little one is up and about. Certainly hasn't had enough milk at this age. No amount of milk is enough. Oh, Corky. Too sweet. Oh, look at this. That is stunning.
Tune into Wild Earth every single day. It's in your nature.
Good morning and welcome back to Bushwalk. We've just been walking one of the drainage lines and came to a small little pan that was formed during the wet season. What we found was a large number of platanas, which is a type of frog which we have here. The name platana actually means flat-handed, and is a name that originated from the Dutch language. We're just going to see if we can actually find a few of them. As they're popping up their heads every now and then, they've got a fairly little small head and a big, broad body, and it's been, and then they're quite flattened from the top to the bottom. So these little frogs, they're quite unique. They don't have a tongue like a normal frog would have in terms of sticking it out and grabbing their prey. They grab all their prey underwater, and they go for small little fish, tadpoles and other small little insects, and they use their claws normally to rake their prey, and then they will swallow it. One of the things that I find quite fascinating about these frogs is that they actually been used into fertility tests for humans in the past. And what they would do is, once a female is ovulating, they would put that drop of urine on top of the female platana, and she will automatically start ovulating. And for many years, this was one of the most accurate ways of actually testing for pregnancy in humans. However, that came to an end. A larger number of these platanas were released worldwide and are now invasive in some other countries. It is also thought that these frogs might be the reason why there was a specific bacteria that was spread across the globe, which is known as chytrid, which specifically affects frogs. However, more recent research actually suggests differently. But whatever what was said was basically that once these frogs were released in these environments, chytrid became endemic into those areas where the frogs were released, and then started affecting the indigenous frog species within that environment and killing them off in large numbers. We often find a bird in this area which is known as a hammerkop, but is specifically adapted to feeding on platanas by having a very strong beak that's specifically hooked and designed for grabbing slippery prey items such as a platana. On top of that, they can also release a mucus, which acts like a chemical detergent that makes them both slippery but as well as distasteful. However, it seems as if a distasteful taste doesn't stop the hammerkop bird at all. We're going to continue our walk and see what we can go and find. But in the meanwhile, we're going to send you to Ngala to enjoy a number of young little lion cubs that are playing.
So these two cubs have literally kept everyone awake. They've been... One's now going for the tail, and the other one's finally got a teat. But they're like on that verge where they're very cute, but also rather annoying. See her trying to catch the tail. Early on, she got smacked by the tail, and it actually made her growl. It gave her such a fright. Oh, she's got it. The young lioness doesn't want any of that. Oh, checking their own stomach for teats. They're just so curious and, of course, not ready to sleep just yet. So the little boy finally got to his teat. He's drinking from the mother, but the other one is just super curious, just wants to play with everyone and everything. Literally gone and stood or lay down on 3 lionesses so far. Jelly, they're so sweet and uncomplicated. I think you'd have a different tone if you were the actual mother. They look very cute if you see them for half an hour. and they look playful and everything. But I think if you were one of these lionesses trying to sleep off a wildebeest carcass, oh, they're all waking up now because of a vulture that just flew over. Yeah, I think you'd have a different tone. They look sweet, but they often, every now and then, they'll go bite one of the lionesses just to try give them milk, and then they moan, and then they walk all over them, and then they start biting the tail when the one's trying to sleep. So, yes, from our perspective, quite cute and sweet, but I don't think you want to be the mother. Big shake of the head. Probably just going to plonk down again now. So this is the blonde Ross male. Big yawn coming. You can see he's missing 2 canines, top left and bottom right. It's fallen out already. But they're not young anymore. These boys who think they just over 10, maybe closer to 11 now. They've held on to this territory for a good amount of time. It's been nearly 3 years. No, it has been 3 years. They took over 3 years ago in April. Okay, so the young female, the cub, is on a mission again. She's now rubbing up against the face of the one lioness. She's looking for teat in there, but now the issue is you're fighting with older youngsters. Samuel, they'll probably only start at around 1.5 years. I can imagine they'll try help. One of the Ross males up now. He's just moving deep into the shade. Oh, he stepped on the tail of the lioness. But yeah, you only really see them get involved with actual kill when they're about 2, and then about 2.5 to 3 years they'll start hunting. But I mean, at 1.5 years they'll try lend their weight to the actual kill. They'll try stalk with the lionesses. Of course, at that age it's still very young, and they could just give it away. Oh, this little lioness is just on a mission. Climbing all over everyone. Looks like a comfortable spot to pass out. She's now having a look at the vultures. So the vultures are getting closer and closer and closer to the wildebeest carcass. I think the older lioness is still there. Actually, yeah. So the older lioness is passed out just to the right of the carcass, and some of the vultures are actually feeding on the carcass. Renata, yeah, she's one of the lead lionesses of the pride, so she's definitely going to stay with the pride until she dies. We don't know which section of the pride she'll stay with, but I'm pretty sure, I mean, she's been Birmingham Pride for as long as we've known them, since 2010. That was her and the other lioness with the white dot on her bum, so of course, yeah, she's a vital part of Birmingham Pride. There's a lot of vultures coming in now. This is just going to attract their attention. Actually, it's very cool to see all the vultures starting to fight and circle. So eventually all the cubs are going to wake up to see what all the commotion is about. Majority of these are hooded vultures. And it's actually quite interesting to see the color or coloration of their faces. A lot of them are very pink in the face or flushed red. It usually happens because they are angry, and of course this would happen because they've just been chased off the tree by another vulture. Poor things. These are also the vultures that would eat lion scat. So I think there's a lot of food for them around in the form of a wildebeest carcass and then poo everywhere. And if any of these lions were still hungry, they would actually go chase the vultures. But for now, it's only the youngsters really staring at the commotion. Even this young one has stopped feeding on the teat and trying to have a look at every now and then. It's just the beat of the wings. It's making a lot of noise. So curious. Nancy Sweet, yes, lions do allow suckle. Now, the one lioness, her youngsters are about 3.5 months old, and then the other, that woke up the old lioness. The other youngsters are only about 2 months old, so they do allow suckle. It's just I think the one has nicer milk than the other one. So we don't know where to look here. There's just so much action. It's the old lioness with all the vultures, and then the youngsters still being very curious about everything. So trying to show you everything that's going on. You can see that old lioness is now up, and she's looking around. I think one of the vultures just came a little bit too close. There she is. Got some impalas ratting in the background as well. Oh, she's limping. Limping quite badly. It's also her. What's this? The old lioness. Let's have a look. Must be. Vultures only scavenge, yes, Ntavi. You're absolutely right on that one. So I'm just looking for my binoculars. She's limping quite badly on her right leg, which is quite strange because this lioness with the cubs she's also limping quite badly on her right leg. But definitely the old lioness, you can see it in her face. So that's a strange thing with vultures, they're fully equipped to hunt. Their talons are sharp enough, strong enough, but they are scavengers. There's just more and more and more vultures pulling in. Luckily, the hyenas are staying away, but I think with this amount of lions, and especially the two dominant males here, hyenas would be silly to come running into this area. Well, other than the vultures flying around and flapping every now and then, it's rather peaceful where we are. There were impalas ratting just behind us a little bit earlier. But now it hasn't stopped. Nicanova, the last litter of the oldest lioness is the white female and her sister. She had a litter of 4 cubs. I remember the one was a young male. The last time we saw him, he was still very tiny. He was with the young Birmingham male in the clearing where we actually stopped. Well, one of the other youngsters is now approaching. I just want to see what happens here, because I think he's just coming to shade to the rest of the lions. But he'll approach very slowly, because the mothers get angry with him. The Ross male woke up. He's got the worst morning hair we've ever seen. I mean, he just... Shame. Poor guy. So the last litter, what's it now, about 2 years, just over 2 years ago? Saying that the one cub, I don't know why they split up, but the one cub was following the young Birmingham male rather than the rest of the pride and the mother. And I remember the young Birmingham male calling out for the rest of the pride. See, so now this is quite interesting. Everyone could hear the grass rustling with the youngster approaching, and they're just giving him a dirty look. But he'll just sit on the other side of the bushes there. definitely not the favorites in the family. And yeah, so the next morning we found the young Birmingham male. He found the rest of the pride, but we couldn't see the cub. So it probably got taken out by something. And the other cub was just left at a den site, and she never followed like the rest of them did. Quite sad, only half of her litter made it. But that was her last litter. So one mother standing up. So now she spotted an impala. It's a male impala not too far from here. She'll be checking that out. She's the one that killed an impala. What was it, 2 nights ago? Just ran off from here about 200 meters and then killed an impala while there was a wildebeest carcass not too far. See all the youngsters trying to follow her. Just gonna wake up the Ross now. You can just hear growling every now and then. There's a lot of moaning going on. So I think we'll still sit here for a while. Maybe actually drive towards the wildebeest carcass, see what the oddline nest is up to, see what the vulture's up to. But I think we'll be in this area for quite some time still. For now, we're going to send you over to Tswalu. He's also found a scavenger.
So we've just found the meerkat's arch nemesis, the black-backed jackal. He comes out there. So the meerkat's moved on foraging, but the really good news is that the meerkat habituates. I'm going to move forward for the jackal. Stay. A meerkat habituator said that the alpha female might have literally popped out pups last night. So 2 to 3 weeks, mark it down in your calendar. We might have a totally new set of little rockets. Over the last few days, she's chased the beta female away. So that's a good update for meerkats. And fortunately for them, this jackal is moving in the wrong direction. Well, the right direction for them. Moving far enough away from the burrow system that he wouldn't be a threat. But it's nice to see it's early winter now. The jackals will start moving around. They are looking for things like meerkats. They're looking for things like mole rats. They will eat insects. They will eat fruit. So for them, the evenings are getting a lot cooler, and the morning is still quite pleasant. Enough for him to be able to continue foraging, and he's totally disappeared. I can't see him anymore. No, he's trotted off into the distance. Well, anyway, we'll drive up and over the dunes. Oh, there's wildebeest. Niels, a full 90 degrees this way. There's a wildebeest just standing down the road, staring at us. So, there's our wildebeest. We're going to carry on into the dunes and see what we can find, and we'll send you across to Tristan at a waterhole.
Hopefully you'll find something in the dunes, Deirdre. But with one of my favorite birds that we get at Chitwa Dam, which is a green-backed heron, and it's busy hunting fish in a puddle, which for this bird must be as easy as it gets. These guys are masterful little hunters, and they sit in this little position that you see like this, with that neck cocked and loaded, and they then basically shoot it out and grab whatever fish is kind of swimming around in there. I don't think there can be a lot left in a little pond of that size, particularly because when I first arrived, there was 2 hummerkorps and this little green-backed heron sitting in that same little pond. I don't even think you can call it a pond. Let's call it a puddle. It's definitely a puddle, not a pond. And so there can't be a lot left in there between those 3 birds. I would imagine they'll clean this up pretty quickly in the next day or so. And it's just the remnants of when the dam was overflowing. It's a kind of area where the water sort of, because it came off of the concrete slab that crosses here, it created a little bit of a furrow with the force of the water, and it's created a perfect place for water to gather and to stay and hold a little bit longer. And small little fish like little baby catfish and baby bream would have been washed over this dam wall and unfortunately would have stayed in this little puddle thinking that it was going to stay safe. And as things happen, it's dried out and they're now absolutely stranded there and at the mercy of predators like this. It's imagine putting a whole bunch of impala in a kind of fenced off area with a leopard in it. That's pretty much the equivalent of what this has happened to these poor little fish. And this predator, like I say, is as efficient as it gets. I just love how they creep along. Look how they place one foot slowly, and then you'll find that they kind of move their body, and the other foot catches up a little bit, and they're very, very cautious to not disturb the water too much. Obviously, we know how skitsy fish can be, so you got to just try and kind of go slowly, and then from there, let's see if it'll shoot out. It looks like it's ready to go. It's also nice that mowing has stopped. So 50 they do. These birds are very, very patient, and it's good to be patient. They need to be... Oh, almost went. Did you see even the little wing beat there? It's difficult for us to get a better view than this. Unfortunately, the grass is grown right up against the edge of the road, so we can only kind of park here. Otherwise, we're going to spook this little bird. I'm hoping that what it grabs, it'll kind of come back. Often what they do is when they've grabbed something, then they move back away from where they've grabbed it towards the edge and kind of swallow it there. I can't imagine that these fish will be anything of kind of size, so it should be a quick swallow and shouldn't have to worry too much about it. It's definitely ready to go though, isn't it? I've said this many times before, but I like them because they remind me of leopards, the way that they go about their business. It's like this slow, methodical stalk that takes place, and then this explosive movement from there that then results in either success or failure, which is very leopard-like. Their little kind of skulking movements that they do, and even the way that the little wings twitch when they get excited is the same as like a leopard's tail. So always kind of, when I see them, they're like a little leopard bird in my mind. Of course, they don't look anything like a leopard, but they have attributes that leopards also have. And patience, as we've just said, to be able to sit like that. Imagine holding that pose. It's something that us as humans just struggle with. We get twitching muscle fibers if we hold a pose for too long. You can imagine with these guys like holding like that, how difficult it must be, especially because if you look at the way that body is shaped at the moment, the back leg is actually up. So it's balancing pretty much just on one leg at the moment, while trying to move the other one gently. That's very cool. Imagine doing that as a human, just sitting on one leg and then slowly trying to move your other leg while keeping your kind of neck under tension, and then being able to strike forward from there and keep your balance. Not be easy at all. Come on, little one. We were lucky the other day with the pied kingfisher hunting when we thought it was going to. So it'd be nice if this guy does the exact same thing for us. I think we might need to be a lot more patient though. With this, the kingfishers are far more active hunters than what... Nope. Obviously, whatever it was that it was watching moved away. I think this bird needs to be quite careful though. It's, like I said, this water's right up against the concrete. It would be travesty if it head-butted the concrete trying to grab one of these fish, which I'm sure are right up against the edge. All right, sounds like something exciting is happening in Ngala, so let's quickly send you across to them.
absolutely hilarious. The one Rasmal, the one standing up now, he he was actually just moving closer to the shade, and he got too close to the one lioness, and the babies were feeding on her, and she got up and gave him a smack, and so this made him angry, and he just started roaring, and then everyone just joins in and they roar. But wow, even the babies tried to roar. You could just hear the soft little moaning sound coming from the side. I mean, that was absolutely wonderful. But he got a hard smack to the side of his face. You see, he doesn't even want to make eye contact now. It's your hair. Just this whole scene has been wonderful to watch. I mean, just watching the vultures. There was one earlier that tried to land on a silver cluster leaf, and the bush is too small, so the whole thing just collapsed underneath it. See that one baby now smelling the dad, saying, "Are you okay? Sorry about my mother. In a bad mood." How cute is that? Got a bit of fur stuck in the teeth there. Just consoling the dad. "You're okay, we're not that angry. It's fine, you can join us in our shade." But how cool to hear all 5 adults here roaring. No, that was just absolutely wonderful. So, yeah, we're going to stay here for still some time. It just gets better and better. But while they're all, relaxing now, settling down a bit, send you over to JP, who's out and about on a walk.
Good morning and welcome back to the Bushwalk. We've just got to a little termite mound where we actually located on a large amount of burrows which has been created by our artwork. I was recently asked if we do find artwork on Pridelands by one of the viewers. My answer is yes. Up to now, I've only seen the tracks once, but here we can see where they dug into the side of this termite mound to feed. Now, what we do find is that these burrow systems where they were feeding in the termite mounds are often on the western-facing side of the termite mound. And the reason why is that this specific part of the termite mound receives more sun throughout the day. And therefore, in the coldest part of the night, when the termites are most active, they will come to the western part of the termite mound to utilize the heat. And this is specifically what the aardvark will then utilize in his favor to gain access to one of his favorite meals. These holes also function as a number of homes for a different number of animals, and they've recorded up to 14 different species of animals which will utilize them. And some of them are jackals, some of them is a hyena, and even African wild dog has modified these for their own burrow system. Other animal that I often find that also will use these quite often is the porcupine, which is our largest rodent species in this area. There's also a number of bird species which associate with aardvark. And one of them is a very rare blue swallow, which is normally found in grassland areas. The other, the Southern African shelduck, or South African, which we find in the arid western half of South Africa, and a small little bird that's known as an ant-eating chat, which often will nest in the top of a cavity of these aardvark burrows. If you find any of these burrows, you always have to make sure that there's not a prominent footpath leading out of them. And if you do approach them, always approach them at an angle of 45 degrees, so that you don't get caught off guard by a potential warthog that might actually be hiding in here. And those can inflict a really bad injury should you be caught by the tusks of a warthog coming running out of the burrow.
If you love to watch Wild Earth, then we are inviting you to join our Explorers program. For a monthly subscription, you will have the opportunity to win fantastic Wild Earth expeditions. join our guides for a chat around the fire, receive weekly highlights from our shows, and much more. All the money will go to keeping these live safaris on air, which in turn allows us to escape into nature every single day.
I was quite surprised and excited to learn that I had won the Wild Earth prize for March. My wife and I started watching Wild Earth during the lockdown, just to allow us to get out of the day-to-day routine and enjoy some of the bush sightings. Our favorites, of course, are watching the birds when they show them sometimes, and especially the leopards. That's always nice to see on the show. She will definitely be going with me, and I'm sure we're going to enjoy all aspects of the prize, as we don't get out into the bush often enough. Thank you very much, Wild Earth.
My name is Ross, and I'm a field guide at and beyond Pinde Private Game Reserve. I love getting questions from guests on Wild Earth because I love sharing and learning information about nature with new people, and it also makes me feel like you're all joining me in real life. If you want to ask a question on Wild Earth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, go to our live safari page and submit your question below our live feed.
The croc is still holding another one there. It's holding from the hindquarters. I would really want. The wildebeest cross is trying. The croc is holding the tail. It's holding tight. Oh no. Goodness me. Lucky, lucky wildebeest. You have another day to live.
Expect the unexpected here on Wild Earth daily.
Hello, I'm Marna, your Wild Earth Safari guide from and beyond Gala. What's my favorite animal? Definitely elephants, and in particular an elephant bull, an old elephant bull. I think the sheer size partnered with their experience because they grow so old. I always wonder what they've seen and how they've seen the bush change over those many years. Join me or one of the other guides twice a day on Wild Earth.
So, we've come into the Dune Street and we found a beautiful herd of gemsbok. So, I'm not anticipating them sticking around for too long because the wind is blowing from us to them, so they might just suddenly decide to run off. But they've been milling around for a while. This is predominantly females, and we have seen one in there, but I can't see her now. She's only got one horn, which is quite strange to see. I can see if I can find her for you. No, I think she's gone behind the bush. There's one on the far left that's now got vegetation stuck on its face. The furthest left, yeah. He's obviously been busy in the gemsbok creeper with the gemsbok cucumber. And he now has some decorations all over his face. It's a young male. So he's struggled to get rid of that. So they're milling around a bit. They're waiting for directive from somebody to choose when they're moving on. They're not actually feeding at the moment. They're just standing around, which might mean that they're looking for a place to lie down and rest for the day. Oh. There's lots of pushing around. It looks like some of the older females are possibly trying to chase away some of the youngsters. Maybe it's their time to go off on their own. Especially if they're young males, maybe they're getting pushed out and they must go off as a little bachelor group. Most of the females quite heavily pregnant at this stage, so we just wait in anticipation for them to start dropping their calves. There comes the single horned one. She's just come out the back of the bush. Zandali has just asked the question, are gemsbok the most common antelope species in Tswalu? And the answer is yes. They are in abundance all over Tswalu. It's their ideal habitat. They like the semi-arid environment. So they thrive here. They do really, really well. But they definitely can't seem to decide what they want to do. So there's that female with just only one horn. She's rather unlucky. We're going to move on and we'll send you across to JP at the waterhole.
Good morning and welcome back to Bushwalk. We just got to Leopard Dam and we had a quick glimpse of an elephant bull that was drinking over here. It is one of the 5 elephant bulls that we located on last night when we came to walk in this area. And this one we've identified again as a one with a slightly shorter trunk. We just want to see what he's going to get up to. Maybe he's just going to reposition. Maybe the water has become too murky for him where he was drinking. As they've got a preference for clean water, so they sometimes just move a few meters and go and drink elsewhere. It seems as if our elephant has got a different plan in mind and is no longer interested in drinking, but rather to move off and go and look for something to eat. He's only probably 100 meters away from us, but still amazing that such a large animal can be so quiet and that we only heard him because of him drinking at the water. Some of the other telltale signs that we hear from elephants, it's often branches that break, and sometimes low vocalizations that they will produce. Good morning, Lisa, and welcome to the show. I also liked the reflections in the water, and this morning I took a number of photos before I left from one of the dams, and there was such a perfect reflection in it, and I just love capturing the trees reflecting back into the water, and especially if you can do that with the sun that's rising just directly behind it, it creates such a beautiful photo. We're just going to see what else happens. We can hear some more distant branches breaking in the background. So it's possible that we might be joined by a few more elephants within the next few moments. Are we going to enjoy the mirror picture on this water body? And then meanwhile hand you over to Ngala, who's busy viewing a number of different vulture species.
Best of luck, JP. Hope you do get to see them. So yeah, we've come to the vultures, and it's interesting to see. It's only hooded vultures on the ground. Yeah, so the piece of bone you can see there, the one approaching the bone, that's actually the skull of the wildebeest. Actually, they're quite scared to approach because, like I said, they're not too far from the old lioness, and every time she moves, you'll just see vultures fluttering up into the air, and then the rest of the lions are all right behind us now. And once that happens, then all of them wake up, because we've got one white-backed vulture that just descended from the tree. He's still far left for now, but let's see, because he's a little bit bigger than the hooded vultures, and so pretty sure he can bully his way in. Here comes the second one. A bit more scared of approaching. Oh, there we go. Taking a run up. I think later on, when all this is finished, all these vultures will actually go to a watering hole, probably Alfred Dam, the dam in the western side, and they'll go clean themselves. Okay. No idea what happened there. The lioness didn't even move. It's that herd mentality or flock mentality here, that when one jumps, all of them jump. It is quite a dangerous game trying to feed. If you're that small compared to a lioness, it's so quick that you don't want to get too close. And if she does move, she can probably get up and catch one. I don't think she'll eat one. Too many feathers to get stuck in your teeth. But lions do what lions do best. It's just kill. The majority of them have these pink faces. They're a bit flustered. Once they completely relax, it will go white. And there's plenty of food for everyone here, to be honest, and yet they're still chasing each other. Sure, both the whiteback vultures took off now. They're not on the ground anymore, they went back to the tree. It's also quite interesting. I mean, we've got impalas who were sitting there earlier, and there are impalas about 100 meters away from these lines. Harley, actually, yes, let me tell you a story. We had a leopard here. You know, he comes back every now and then, called Makoti male. Makoti actually means vulture. So as a youngster, I think the first time I saw it, he was about 5 months old, and he would climb into a tree, eat a vulture chick, and then just fall asleep on top of the nest. And it was absolutely hilarious because you'd find the mom and his brother at the base of the tree, and then you look up and you just see these 4 little paws hanging down from the vulture nest as he would proceed to fall asleep after eating the chick. So yes, no, quite a few things. I mean, if worst comes to worst, all these animals will kill anything to survive. It wouldn't be my first option for meal. I don't think it would be the first option of a lioness either, but there's still a bit of meat here. It's quite a big bird. Some vulture meat and rotten flesh. Wouldn't that be a great breakfast? Lioness now put her head down and is falling asleep again. I think this puts the vultures at ease, so they'll go closer and closer, and more of them will go to the carcass, or what's left of it. Just to set the scene or paint this picture for you. So the lions that we saw earlier, they are about 40 meters away from us, and just south of them, an entire herd of impala. So we're going to turn around, maybe show you them again, but for now, send you over to some birds that are hunting.
Good morning and welcome back to Bushwalk. We're at Leopard Dam at the moment, and we're watching a number of fork-tailed drongos, which are basically plunge bathing. We just would like to see if we can capture them doing it again. I just love fork-tailed drongos. They almost break every rule in the book. They're quite aggressive little birds. They often don't take nonsense from anybody that's bigger than them, and quite often we also see them stealing food from other birds as well and attacking large birds of prey. They're probably the avian equivalent of a honey badger, So there's one that's flying low over the water, and it's possible that they're also picking insects off the water. But for the moment, it looks more like they're actually just plunge bathing, where they'll fly, hit the water, and immediately take off before their wings get soaked, so that they can get some water onto the feathers, so that it can loosen the old preening gland oil that's on the feathers. And this will be replaced once they've had their bathing session with a fresh coat of preening gland oil. This keeps the feathers supple, as well as making it last longer. What we find is the feathers, as feathers that have grown, is that it's dead, and if it doesn't get maintained, it cannot work in terms of insulating the bird, as well as providing it with the necessary aerodynamics which it needs for flight. It's also quite interesting that black feathers, they got more melanin, which is a pigment in it, which is actually structurally stronger compared to that of birds that have got white feathers. Our drongos have now seemed to have moved off and are no longer interested in plunge bathing. Here we go, there's one that just hit the water again. These three individuals that I see over here most of the time at the dam, it seems like a pair, and their offspring that they produce seems like only if it was one chick that was successfully raised, and he's slightly paler in coloration compared to that of the adults. We're going to move on and see what we can go and find. But in the meanwhile, we're handing you back to Tristan, who's bumbling around.
We are bumbling around, but just here on our right-hand side, there's the most epic calls coming from the bush. I'm going to just let you listen quickly. So you can hear two ground hornbills talking to each other. Alright, so you've got two ground hornbills, it's a male and a female, that are talking. Now the female is the first call, and the higher pitched of the two.
Henry.
So basically, how we always remember this is that she says, "Honey, come to bed," and then he's got the lower, deeper voice that says, "No, not yet." That's how we were taught it when we were training. Now, it's common at this time of the year to hear this because we're going to start to see pairing off of groups of hornbills. They've now raised chicks, and then they start to kind of find each other again and start to pair off and kind of start looking for other places to distribute if it's the little ones. Otherwise, also just building up of a group together. So it could also be that the chick is fledged and moved, and that they're talking because of that. But often you'll hear male and females calling at this time of the year like this, and they're moving away from us. I can hear them calling further and further away. Amazing. Very cool to hear. All right, we're going to carry on. Let's send you back to Tswalu in the meantime.
So we've just driven past a little artwolf in the hole, but I think he might have gone back in the hole, which is typically a nocturnal animal. He's quite tiny, beautiful little pointy ears. I can't see. He popped out. He was waiting in the sun, so we might have to just be a little bit patient. We're not going to talk too much. But I just drove past and his little face was sticking out the hole, so he was enjoying the sun. And they're normally quite rare to see in the daytime. If we're patient enough and we wait, he might think we've moved on and then he'll come back out the hole. So it really is just an obscure hole at the base of a grey camel thorn. Yeah, we just have to be patient. Apparently the tension is killing everybody. But in Aardwolf they've got the cutest little faces. Otherwise we'll have to mark the spot and just continually keep coming past until it gets relaxed with a vehicle that it doesn't want to hide. Come on, you can make your live TV debut, please. We're going to just wait here and see. Maybe he pops his head up, but we're going to send you across in the meantime to some lions at Ngala. We'll patiently wait for you.
So you can see some of the lions now have their heads up and they're looking in that direction. There's a vehicle approaching. So that's what has got all of their attention. But yeah, it was interesting to watch. There was an impala, herd of impala not too far away from them that they were all stalking. Or not stalking, sorry. Just the one lioness was actually watching the herd of impala. You can still see some of them, and it's really not that far from them. Let's see if Craig can find them there. So really not too far away, but majority of these are actually females, majority of the impalas. So they'll be quite aware. And of course, to get to them, the lions will have to stalk literally through a clearing for about, I don't know, it's a good 60, 70 odd meters. It'll be quite hard to catch that. But anyway, we are probably going to have to leave them rather soon. We've got another vehicle coming in here with guests. But what a very, very, very cool sighting, especially with all the vultures, the roaring. I think we did phenomenally well. They're quite cool. You can see the vultures are starting to circle on our right-hand side. It's a lot of birds. So this, definitely, I mean, when we're walking and we're looking for a leopard or lion or anything, this attracts our attention very, very, very quickly. Nicanova, absolutely. I was talking earlier about the Makoti male, and he once stole a buffalo leg from a pride of lions. I think all of them moved off to go for a drink, and he actually put the buffalo leg in a tree. And this was maybe 2 years ago now, and that buffalo leg is still in the tree. So yes, could be too old. It's too hard for vultures to actually pierce through it. Okay, so we are going to start up, go past these lions. Some of them are a little bit awake now with all the vultures moving off. And then I think from there head back east into the Timbawati. Richard was saying earlier that he had, it sounded like another male lion calling, not too far. And could be that the Birmingham young male is on the property somewhere in the river as well. I think we're just gonna quickly stop around here while we've got all the lions with their heads up and just looking around. And then from here move out and make space for other people. That one ras male has very scary eyes and he's staring straight at us. That guy. It's more his right eye. It's funny. We always joke that the white male must be his son, because the white male is a little bit squint. Not that he's squint, he's just a little bit squint. And the white male is definitely squint. Okay, so we're gonna head on, see what else we can find. But what a wonderful morning. Let's head a little bit further east, drop into the river and see if we can find any sign of the Birmingham young male.
So in 1998, we had this idea to go and put a live web camera on a waterhole somewhere in the Sabi Sands next to the Kruger National Park. And I approached just about every single landowner and everybody thought I was completely crazy until I met Yuri and Pippa Moorman.
We thought it was definitely a fun idea and a worthwhile thing to experiment.
And it immediately became a runaway success. And it gave people all around the world the opportunity to watch a little piece of Africa day and night. Back in 1998, it was the very early stages of the internet. And all we were able to do was to get a 30-second refreshing JPEG out of that camera. But over time, what we began to do is focus more and more on trying to develop this concept of giving people the opportunity to go on safari.
Even though we live just 500 meters up this hill, we still put the camera on to see what's happening.
Absolutely, we watch it ourselves.
I love being a cam-op for Wild Earth. The animals coming right up close to you, especially like lions. Sometimes you get nervous, but you have to go with the flow. My favorite animal to film is the elephant because of how big it is. But when it's really up close to you, it's one animal that you would say, I really respect you.
Hello, Mama. Just checking us out, everybody. There's no aggression here. Very relaxed. A herd of elephants moving around your car like that is truly, truly magical.
Tune into Wild Earth every single day. It's in your nature.
Well, we
we've managed to find ourselves some dwarf mongoose. I don't know, I think Trish had them this morning already. No, somebody's calling me on the radio, so just give me 2 seconds. Yeah, go ahead, yours. No, nothing outside. It's quite quiet this morning. Sorry, I was just quickly going to sort. No, there was still like 90% left when I was there yesterday morning, but she dragged it into the Mulawati closer to where that den is, so we haven't followed up. So you can see them scuttling off the road. They were just lying in the road, sunning themselves. They almost looked as they were on it. Yeah, the rest I don't know where they've gotten to. There, we still got it there, Morgan. Morgan's busy. Oh, it's that little baby one. That's cute. A tiny little one. I don't want to go too far down the road because obviously they scatter all over the place and move away. Yeah, that obviously is a mom with its little baby. By the looks of things. Yeah, that is very small. I mean, it's not a tiny dwarf mongoose baby. Oh no. I'm afraid a hornbill just disturbed them. There's a hornbill that's landed in a tree above them, and I think the landing of the wings gave them an absolute fright. And they, unfortunately, that coupled with the car probably coming down the road, that unfortunately would have made them lose the plot. You know, wings beating above them is something they've got to be careful of. But with dwarf mongoose, you often find hornbills following them around, same as you find drongos following them. The hornbills do too. They know that the dwarf mongoose often disturb insects, and so when you see hornbills and drongos together, if you look down on the path or the road below them, you'll often find a mongoose of some sort taking it easy there. Anyway, all right, let's carry on. Let's go see what else we can find. They've been busy this morning. I see their tracks all over the place here, going back and forth through this area. Sorry, guys.
So we've left the lines. The ranger with the guests are in there now, and we are setting off back to the Timavati riverbed, and actually we'll go have a look where Richard think he heard contact calling from, well, what he thinks is the young Birmingham male lion. Actually quite a distinct call for him. It's quite a long rasp, but he won't call like to his full potential just yet because he's not territorial. Also, if he does that, he will cause a fight with the rasbels, which I think is one of the last things he wants to do at this stage. But now it's just a thing whether was he moving when he was calling, or was he actually just lying down and listening for anyone to answer. So yeah, we will go into the Timavati River, just investigate that area a little bit and hope for the best. Sounds like JP found an elephant on his bushwalk, so we'll send you across to him.
Good morning and welcome back to Bushwalk. We just made our way down the road from Leopard to Dam, and we are on our way back towards our vehicle. And we've just located another elephant bull that's just come down the road. At the moment he's slowly feeding and minding his own business. The wind is in our favour, and we've also got a number of big trees in our favour, so it's unlikely that he's seen us or smelt us. But it's possible that he can hear us, as they've got fairly good hearing. Let's see what he gets up to. Now that the temperatures are starting to increase as the morning is progressing, it's very likely that he's on his way to one of the small little pans or dams to go and have a little drink. Here he comes. We're just going to allow him to walk right past us, and we're going to be dead quiet for the moment. So over the last few weeks, we've noticed that there's more and more breeding herds coming into the area. And as there was progressively more breeding herds coming in the last week, we've also noticed more and more bulls coming in to come and check for the reproductive condition of these females. At the moment, this guy is busy having some grass. He just pulled it out and is getting rid of the excess dust and sand to prevent that it damages the molar teeth. And there we go. Nice big mouthful of grass. So this time over here, the main focus is grass and both fruit as well as leaf material. But when it comes to the later parts of winter, it's almost entirely only going to be leaf material what they're going to feed on. As mentioned quite a few times, they actually deliberately engineer their environment according to their needs. And that's why they're maintaining balance between grasses as well as trees. So if you have abundance of trees, then you're going to lose your grass component. But also if you've got too much grasses, which can be aggressive growing plant, it might outcompete even small trees from growing. This also has another indirect benefit. It increases the biodiversity of different browsing and grazing species within an area. And should we find that there's too many elephants within that area, they can actually change that habitat to such an extent that you can lose either browsers or grazers within that specific area. One of the ways that conservation managers maintain the populations of an areas of elephants is actually by waterhole management. So over the last decade or two, they've actually started using less and less man-made water structures, as they found that this will automatically increase the number of elephants within the area, and then that they will actually overutilize. Therefore, it forces animals to walk far greater areas to actually go towards water, and prevents that overutilization of that specific area as mentioned. So many of the times when we see all these trees that's been pushed over, we do see it as quite a detrimental effect, but actually it's not. It's a way that they're maintaining the environment, but also how they assist with the releasing of nutrients and minerals within the ecosystem, as these dead trees will now become food for termites, as well as species such as wood-boring beetles that will release that nutrients and minerals back and make it available for green plants to utilize, so that it can cycle again from plant to herbivore to carnivore and through their waste products in the environment. We're quite happily going to watch this guy for a little bit longer. It's always such a privilege to do so. But we're going to hand you over to Trish in the moment in Djuma and see what she has to offer.
And I have had a very, very slow drive. Not much going on. That's okay, that's the way it is sometimes. It's actually quite relaxing, and now the sun has come out, so it's nice and warm. Getting a little bit sleepy. But we've been down to Simbambili Dam. There's not much happening there. No twin dam around, but driving around and very slowly, just enjoying the sights and the sounds. I've been trying to look for the kind of beginning of a community nest spider's nest. What I suspected was one being built. That's somewhere along this road. It's on Gallagher Shortcut. So I want to see if any development has happened, because they are nocturnal creatures. I wonder if last night they built a little bit more on it, if it is in fact the nest of a community nest spider. That would be lovely. Quiet. Even this morning, I like when this breeze comes through. It's like the leaves are talking to you, like they're singing a little song. For me, that reminds me of the dry season, because at other times of the year, there's so much other sound. There's birds, there's insects, and you don't get to hear the rustling of those leaves as much. Plus, they don't rustle very much because they're not very dry at other parts of the year. So now they're starting to get a little bit drier. So we can hear that gentle sound. I hope that I'll be able to find the beginnings of that community nest spider's web for you. We can look at it and investigate together. But for now, I'm going to send you over to Deirdre at Tswalu.
We gave up on our little aardwolf. We sat there for about 10 minutes and there was no movement, so we will be back and we will see if we can try again. But we found a beautiful sable bull on top of the dune crest. He's quite far away from us, so he is literally just a speck on the horizon for me, but a beautiful sable bull nonetheless. The only reason I saw him was because of the silhouette. So we do tend to spot things at a very, very long distance in the Kalahari. Hence, a pair of binoculars is definitely a necessity, or a zoom lens. But that silhouette in colour is distinctive, that nice dark black for a sable bull, and those horns, that shape is unmistakable in the silhouette on top. Mark is asking the question, do sable bulls also have a rutting season? I'm actually not sure. I don't think so, but I'm not sure. They don't. We don't see them fighting like impalas fight. I mean, that's the most obvious of the antelope from a rutting season point of view. But I don't think two sable bulls will fight for the right to breed with a female, but it's not a rutting season where they run around making lots of funny sounds, chasing each other. He's got a very good view from up there. He can see predators from both sides of the dune. Have a nice snack of grass. Faith is saying those horns are magnificent. They are indeed. Sable, one of my favourite antelope, just based on that sort of coloration on the face and that sort of sweeping arc of the horns. So sable really only have lion to fear as a predator. They're too big for cheetah. If cheetah challenge a sable, they just drop their horns and the cheetahs think twice. So we have seen that a few times. Both sable and the roan give cheetah a good run for their money. The calves, of course, are vulnerable to cheetah, the same as the calves are vulnerable to leopard, but a big sable bull like that, only a lion would be a threat. You can even see how good and round his belly is. The season's been good for them. They've had a really, really good summer. They've put on a really, really nice fat layer ready to go into winter. They're in really good condition. You can just hear the birds, the little bokmakkeries and the crimson-breasted shrikes calling. Luke is asking which animal has the biggest horns. Sure, they all vary because a gemsbok, the horn can be over 1.5 meters, and we actually picked up a specimen here. I'll ask Niels to come across to show you this. Maybe it's the horn from the female that didn't have one. But we have an example of a gemsbok horn. We know this isn't from that female, I'm just teasing, because there's a portion of bone still attached. So this was most likely killed by a predator, this particular horn. This is a gemsbok horn. And the fact that the piece of bone is there, it would have just overaged, been brittle, and been carried off somewhere by hyenas. But what we wanted to show you on the horns, a gemsbok horn in length, 1.25 meters. Some kudu, they sort of do the edge of the curl to get the full length of the horn. So it is quite difficult. Sable, 51, 52 inches is a really large sable. But what's really nice to see on this gemsbok horn is all these ridges along here. And if I run my finger up and down, when gemsbok are fighting, if the tip hits here, this effectively slows the tip down for when they are fighting. And you'll get sort of almost growth rings. So quite pretty. And then we can show you the tip. I think the tip, we found this horn in the road, so it looked like the tip got driven over by a vehicle. But if Niels zooms in there, you can actually see it's just literally like a hard fiber, which would be like a keratin, which is the same as our nails and our hair. There, and the central bone will run all the way in the middle of the sheath. So quite something. We sized this particular horn that we found at about 80 centimeters at least. So there's still potentially another 40 centimeters that you could add on for a full length adult. We're going to carry on in the dunes, and we're going to send you across to Trish, who's on her little bumble.
Yeah, horns are really, really variable. And how do you count them? Do you count them with the spiral, like with a kudu's horn, or do you count it, each spiral as part of the distance? I say you have to straighten out the spiral. No, I don't think so. Well, we're doing a final little loop in this area. I wanted to see something. And that is a particular silver cluster leaf that last night had a chameleon in it. The reason I wanted to look at it is because ordinarily the chameleon is really green, and the silver cluster leaf is not particularly green. It's silvery, almost a bluey green. So I wanted to have a look and see what the chameleon would look like if it's still in that tree. I heard a half-hearted snort in this direction from these impala. Give me a clue. No, they're relaxed again. Okay, let's get ahead so I can find this tree and see what the chameleon is doing, if it is still in the tree. What's nice about chameleons is that you can find them in a similar tree. If you found them once, they're likely to stay there for a few days. I think it might have been through here. I've really taken to viewing them during the day because there's a lot more going on. Yep, I'm quite sure it was this tree. I don't see anything. But then perhaps it's changed its color to be more suitable for the leaves of the silver cluster leaf. Yeah, viewing them during the day is just a little bit prettier, obviously, but also there's more action, tongue action. Hi, Andrew. You'd like to know if no. I'm sorry about that, guys. We just had a slight break there, but we're back, and the question was about whether they estivate or not, or whether they hibernate or not. So hibernation is related to temperature changes. Estivation is related to changes in resources, like changes in water dryness. So a period going from a period of abundance of moisture to dryness. So our reptiles here in the Sabi Sands in South Africa, they estivate, they don't hibernate. So in estivation, the animal can come out of estivation very quickly if the circumstances and the conditions return back to a favorable time. So if they're estivating for a month and then suddenly we get a slight rain and then there's moisture again, the animals will wake up. So it's just a time of dormancy as opposed to being completely asleep, and there being biological mechanisms to help you with it. So chameleons haven't really. There are examples where they would find like a little crevice or an area where they would go in and estivate, but there's also been examples where chameleons have not done that and just been on a tree, or maybe even gone into kind of, you see how there's these peripheral branches to the tree that are not well covered? They sometimes go into where there's the Y or the nook in a branch, where the branch is branching off from main trunk, and it kind of just sit in those areas. But it all depends on the conditions. If it's so dry that they need to estivate, they will. But I have seen times when they haven't estivated. If conditions are good, they won't need to. I'm just going to turn slightly to my right. Chameleon. Where are you? No, I don't see it. Hi, Cindy. You'd like to know, how do chameleons find each other for mating purposes? That is an excellent question. Because firstly, they only need to find each other for mating purposes, and any other time, well, a flat-necked chameleon, they're completely solitary, and they're also territorial. So they only need to find each other when they're mating, and they only get in contact with others if there's some sort of aggression. But the whole thing with color change is that it's a form of signaling. So how they get each other's attention if they want to mate is they change color, because they need to mate. Their hormones are changing. They might get an increase in testosterone, and then that causes a color change. So it's not they don't color change for camouflage. They color change to signal. So they use that as a form of communication, which is a result of their hormonal changes. It's triggered hormonally, not by... They don't see a color and say, I want to be this color. Well, I don't think he's here. They'll get very vividly colored when they want to mate. Apart from the fact that when they want to mate, they'll move around a lot more. So females might come into, when as soon as they see a male, they'll be vivid, or male become very, very vivid. Anyway, let me send you over to Deirdre. She's on a bumble also.
So we're just bumbling along, and every now and again, oh, there they are. We're trying to miss these armoured ground crickets. I know they've changed their name to katydids. There's two on the edge there on the right. Oh, I probably have to duck my head. On the edge of the road there, Neil's in that green patch over there. And yeah, there they are. You can just see these creepy cricket-like creatures. You can see that sort of armour-plating body shield on the top. Slowly, they're dying off as we start getting these cold snaps. They're definitely less and less in number. We had, I know people that are afraid of them probably felt like it was a plague of them, but they were just in abundance after the good rains. And they are good food sources. The meerkats absolutely love them. If they have been unintentionally squashed on the road, the armoured ground crickets eat themselves. They're cannibalistic, so they'll eat each other. And that's also when you see some of the larger birds like hornbills and rollers will also tuck in once the cricket's already dead. They exude sort of hemolymph. If anything comes and approaches them from the side, they can squirt some of that like a yellow fluid and generally tends to repel a predator. So that's why a lot of the birds wait until they can pick up the dead ones. But as we get colder and colder in the morning, so there are less and less of them, and then we'll wait until the rains for the next batch next year. And then you can actually see the ones just eating a little bit of plants. They are herbivores and cannibalistic as well. So recently they changed their name from cricket to a katydid, and it's because crickets can jump and these ones can't at all. They don't have the strength in their legs. They're quite large, but they can climb really, really well. They climb up into the trees in the heat of the day. When it starts getting that the soil temperature, there's one crossing the road, when they start getting to the hot temperatures of well over 30 to 34 degrees, they start climbing up into the trees to just get off that really, really hot soil. Snazzy is asking the question, how big can they get? I'd probably say their body thickness about the size of an adult thumb. they can get quite big. So initially they start off as really, really tiny little crickets. They're probably no bigger than a fingernail. And then as they grow throughout the season, they eventually get to these, which are easily a human thumb thickness. If Niels, I'm just going to jump out. Niels is going to focus on that one. There's one or two that are relatively close by. I'm not afraid to put him on my hand, but we'll see if it wants to cooperate. There we go. I have a friend. No, come. Don't run away. There we go. Then you can see relative size on my hand. About the thickness of my thumb. Please don't bite me. No, ow, nibbling. It's nibbling. I'm not a tasty leaf. It's just obviously testing out to see if they. Ow, just bit my nail. The things I do for you on live TV. So there we go. Just to give you a good idea on size. But this one doesn't have as long antennae as they normally have. This one's got relatively short ones. It is trying to sense exactly what I am, and that's also what they'll do with the little mouth parts. No, that's my fingernail. And you can see here the armor plating on the back. Nice in the sunlight. That you can bite, that's okay. That's so there we go. Now you can see roughly how big they get. So this is an average size ground cricket. I'm going to put it back down where it wants to be. Don't jump. There we go. Onto a nice Indigofera. Everyone's saying I'm so brave. They are creepy looking, but they're not that bad to pick up.
Nestled on the banks of one of the largest lakes in the Sabi Sands lies an award-winning game lodge called Tswalu. Many of you will have been on safari here virtually with Wild Earth, but now we are offering you the chance to see it for yourself in person. Sign up to be a Wild Earth explorer before the end of April, and you and a friend could win 3 nights to this luxury lodge. In addition to the unforgettable safaris, you can unwind on the deck, relax in the pool, and even savor the various bush dining experiences. Tswalu's holistic approach to hospitality, with specific emphasis on conservation, will leave you with the very best memories of the African wild. Wild Earth Explorers, it's in your nature. For many years, Wild Earth has taken viewers from around the world to the Mara Triangle, a place of majestic beauty and abundant wildlife. But it wasn't always like this. Before 2001, it was infested with poachers. Illegal harvesting and hunting was rife. Now the situation couldn't be more different. The hard work and dedication of the Mara Conservancy has revolutionized this magical land. But now, the loss of revenue from tourism has created a grave crisis. The Mara Conservancy needs help if they are to continue protecting the reserve and supporting the local communities whose livelihood depend on its survival.
My name is Taylor McCurdy and I work for Eco Training. I love hearing from all of the viewers. However, I particularly enjoy those of you who have been watching for a few years. Your questions are just so advanced and they really get me thinking. If you'd like to ask a question on Wild Earth, you need to register on our website. Once you've done that, head to the live safari page and submit your questions below the live feed.
Right, so apparently we are live, which means that my radio is not working, which is delightful. So this should be an interesting way to finish up this morning, because I'm not going to be able to hear a count at all. So that should be quite interesting. I'm going to have to just guess. Morgan, you're going to have to tell me when we're 10 seconds out from the finish of our morning drive. Anyway, it's been quiet for us here in Djuma. There's been no tracks to follow up on, nothing really happening. Tandy was seen inside Torchwood briefly, so we'll see this afternoon. Maybe she makes a move and we can get some signal with her, but otherwise hopefully this afternoon will bring about a bit more luck than we've had this morning. I still thoroughly enjoyed my morning though. It was a nice slow easy bumble through the reserve. Checked out Chitwa, which was pretty, and just generally took it easy. It sounds like Tswalu had some cool stuff. I can't believe they had an aardwolf. That's very, very cool. And it sounds like Ngala also held the fort this morning. So between the two of them, they did a fine job. But Djuma, I'm afraid, was not nearly as productive as it was yesterday. Hello, impalas. One thing you can guarantee is that you're going to find an impala, at least on quarantine. Always makes life a lot easier to kind of finish things up with. At least you can finish with an animal. These guys are, as you can see, just taking it easy. These will be sort of two bachelor males, although they should be males that are competing for mating rights. Maybe they've just been pushed out by the male that's in charge of the females, because I see them off to the left. And so this, posturing that's going on between these two. Maybe they're going to fight for the shade. Although impalas don't really worry about shade too much when it's the rut. They're pretty happy to sit in the sun if it means a chance at mating. I believe you guys are all saying you can't believe how the bush has changed so quickly. Sorry, I'm relying on Morgan because my radio is completely not working. So I have zero comms with Final Control at the moment. So if you hear a mumble on the mic, it's Morgan just repeating to me what's happening. But yeah, the bush has changed quickly. It's amazing in the last 2 weeks how different it looks. Everything is starting to look very wintry, and with this wind and cold weather, I think the marulas are going to drop leaves pretty soon, and then after them we'll start to see the bush willows kind of dropping, followed eventually, if it gets dry enough, by some of the terminalias as well, and then it starts to look quite stark out here. It doesn't look nearly as good as it would in the summer months. But the game viewing gets better and things get easier for us to find, and that's the nice part about the winter months, is that things come through en masse for us. Much easier to find, especially the elusive things like leopards in the winter months. Right, well, it's that time of the day though for us to start heading home. Hopefully you've had a nice morning and you've enjoyed your live African safari. It's been a treat to have you all aboard. Like I say, we haven't pulled out too much from the Djuma side of things, but it sounds like it was still an epic drive for all of you at home, so we hope that you enjoyed it. And from all of us, It's been an absolute pleasure, and we look forward to seeing you this afternoon on our sunset safari.